안녕하세요. 무비프레스 시청자 여러분. 저는 에디터 크리스입니다. 오늘 저희는 제27회 부천 국제 판타스틱 영화제의 스페셜 게스트를 모시고 인터뷰를 진행하려고 합니다.
Something awful is coming.
You have to stop what you're doing. You are in danger.
This is a good story. I've got good numbers and people are really listening. I want to tell you a story. All you have to do is listen.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Personally, the movie was so good.
Thanks.
This is an honor to having an interview with you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's I was saying to you before that it's Korea, is so famous for its cinema. It has such wonderful cinema, and so to be able to come and share with Korean audiences is really an honor for us too. So we're excited to be here.
First of all, could you say hello to Movie Press subscribers and also introduce yourself briefly?
Hello, Movie Press subscribers. My name is Matt Vesely. I'm a filmmaker from Adelaide in South Australia, and I'm here at the Busan Fantastic Film Festival with a film called Monolith, which is a science fiction thriller starring Lily Sullivan from Evil Dead Rise. You may have seen her recently. The film is about a podcaster, an investigative journalist who, having recently been sort of shamed from her career working for a prestigious newspaper, is forced to kind of work for a kind of mystery, clickbaity kind of podcast. And she uncovers a mystery about alien artifacts that are appearing around the world. And the further she delves into this mystery, the kind of more she loses her own sense of self in the rabbit hole. So it's a kind of a science fiction, horror, thriller, told in one location with only one actor on screen. Everything else we hear through voices for the people that she's interviewing around the world. So it was a fun challenge and hopefully an exciting film that you'll get to see soon.
So the following question is, what is Monolith?
Well, I want to tell you a story.
I want to tell you a story.
To the words that open the film. Originally, we wanted to make a film when we were coming up with this idea of a film of a podcast interviewing a sort of strange alien event. We were inspired by a few years ago, these 2001: A Space Odyssey style monoliths were appearing around the world. I don't know if you remember this, that it was they were just appearing in really strange places, these kind of big metal plinths in deserts around the world, in all kinds of strange spots. And we saw this story, and originally we thought we would have her investigate this real thing that happened, and then discover that maybe, there is an alien truth behind it. Obviously, in real life, it was just an art installation, basically. But that's where the title Monolith came from. But as we continued developing and that story shifted and it became about these black bricks, these small sort of black bricks that people around the world kind of receive in a very strange way, and they start to influence their life in an alien and uncanny way.
How much does it cost for the whole budget, and also how long does it take to finish this entire movie?
So the film was actually developed as part of a lab back in Australia that the South Australian Film Corporation and the Adelaide Film Festival ran, so two film bodies. And the idea was three filmmaking teams would go into this development workshop with the idea of they would be making a film for a low budget. You would develop a film that would suit a micro budget. And so the idea was you'd come in and try to write a film that was not only going to work, that you could make for a small amount of money, but that would be better for it. That would almost be like the concept of the film is the only way you can make the film is in a small way. And so that's how we land on this idea of we're going to try to do an alien invasion story. We're going to do like Arrival, but with one actor in one location. Can we do that? That's the challenge we sort of set for ourselves. So the film we wrote it over a year. We were successful at the end of that year. We sort of apply and we got the production funding, which was, I can't give you the exact budget, but it ended up being well under $500,000 US, which is still a lot of money to me, but is very small for a film. And we shot for 3 weeks. So about 16 days of shooting, 15 days with Lily, and then 1 day of second unit some stuff without actors, some shots of empty buildings and the outside and things. That was in May last year, May 2022 we shot, and we did all the post and premiered the film at the Adelaide Film Festival in October. So it was a very quick turnaround, but that was kind of invigorating. There's you're forced to kind of make decisions quickly, trust your instincts, and it gives everyone, I think the whole team, a feeling of life. You're there to kind of make your film together, and that gave us a lot of energy. So, it was a small film, but we were very careful in the whole writing process to make sure we were writing a film we knew that we could do and do well with that budget, with that scope, and with that time. And so every choice we made was to support that production methodology. So it leads to a film that is unique, I think. As you say, it's one person in one location, but the themes and the kind of story that's going on is a big, science fiction film. So hopefully it's enjoyable that way as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really surprised that it just took 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks, about 3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow, it must be very hectic schedule.
It was actually, for the shoot, not too bad, because the way, again, and this is about the way we wrote the film, we knew that we would have about 3 weeks. So the way that Lucy Campbell, the writer, and she's an amazing writer, and the way she's thinking about how the scenes are structured is supporting that schedule. Bettina Hamilton, the producer, was also very closely involved in the development. The three of us kind of were developing the story together, knowing how we were going to shoot it. So there's certain things, like a lot of the scenes are quite long. They're Lily having a long conversation with someone, and the way we did it on set is we had one actor, Ansuya Nathan, play all the other roles on set live and getting piped into Lily's headphones. She's on headphones with a microphone like this, the whole time. And so we could do those long scenes, which are 10 minutes of the film, in half a day. We do them before lunch because they're restricted angles. I really wanted the feeling of, long shots, very careful camera, so you can feel the kind of observation of the camera, very meaningful editing points. But it means that that's all very planned. There's not a lot of it to do, and Lily would just do the whole scene in one. She would just do this whole conversation in one take, and then we'd do a few takes of that and then change the angle and do it again. And so you could cover a lot of the film very quickly. And so actually the shooting schedule felt very good. The post, when we're editing, that was a bit tight. I could have done with some more time there, but the shoot was great, felt really good. Yeah, less than that US. In Australian, it was around $600,000.
Really?
Yeah, quite a bit less. I'm not sure how it translates. It was about 600,000 Australian-ish. Yeah, I can't remember the exact.
Oh, it's shock.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of point of the initiative that we're in. This film lab was like, can you make a micro-budget film to be your first film? We'd made a lot of shorts, and the writer and the producer had extensive experience in television in Australia, but we'd never got to make our own film. And so this was the idea, is that we'd have a small budget, and it was like, with a small budget means that you have creative freedom as well, and go and make the boldest film you can for that money and take that big step. So it's an amazing opportunity for us, and so we tried to make the most interesting film we could, the boldest film we could. The film opens on 3 minutes of black, no picture, which if you had more money, you would have people telling you that that's a terrible idea and that will never, the algorithm won't like that. But we knew that we had freedom, so we wanted to just make the most impactful movie that we could. And so, it's hard, but we had a great crew that we could trust with their roles that really owned the film as well. And it meant that we could just make the most creative film that we could. So it's an opportunity as well.
It felt like The Monolith is serving as a model for a low-budget horror thriller. But was there any specific scene or description you wanted to add if you have more bigger budget?
We've been asked this before, and the truth is that no. Because we would have made a different film if we had a bigger budget. This film was really born out of those limitations. And so all the choices were about how can we make the most of this, and what's the most interesting way to do it within this boundary of this small budget, this small schedule. And so I think that's the movie's strength. I hope that that's the strength of the film. And so no, wouldn't have changed a lot. There's some, look, I probably would have gone a bit crazier with some of there's a few visual effects in the film, there's not very many, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Maybe I would have had a slightly crazier idea in some of those, but no, not really. It was like that was always the point. It was still gonna feel this way. So no, I'm really happy with how it turned out, yeah.
Also, the quality is so good, so.
Well, I think again, that's about like the production value being put into the right places. So we have this amazing location with these wonderful people back in Adelaide who were kind enough to lend us their house. Our location manager, Scott McCartan, who's this amazing guy. He comes from a background of urban exploration, which is where you go into abandoned buildings and underground spaces, and that was his background as a kid. And so now he has this amazing ability to find places. And we knew the film is mostly going to be in a house. So originally it was set on the coast of South Australia. We have these amazing cliffs with the ocean. But we couldn't quite find the right house there. And because it's so much in the house, I said, hey, Scott, don't worry about the cliffs. We can figure that out. Go and find me just the most interesting looking house you can find. And he found it on Google Maps, like just a bird's eye view, and just knocked on the door and said, can I come have a look around? And the family there was so kind to let us hire the house from them for 3 weeks. And something like that gives a lot of production value. It makes it, it's a beautiful space, these concrete floors, so much glass, so much light. And we knew that, like, working with the cinematographer, Mike Tessari, we were like, again, we don't have heaps of money. We have one actor. It's gonna feel like limited in many ways. So what are the ways we can make it feel bigger and more polished and a bigger budget than it seems? And having the right location, having an incredible actor in Lily, and working so closely with Mike and the production designer, Jonah, to make the most of that space means that all the value is being directed into the right places. We're not spread too thin. We're making these choices about, we're gonna get this angle and this angle. We're not gonna shoot it a million ways, like very careful choices. And it means that it feels, I think, bigger than it is, which is a testament to the production team.
The main character uses a podcast to disseminate her side of the story. But some new media types seems to be more effective visually, such as like YouTube. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there are any specific reason to use a podcast in this movie.
Well, look, there's a couple of reasons to use a podcast. One is again about the tone and methodology of the film, that we knew we only ever wanted to see one person, and that feeling of isolation would be helped by only seeing one. So with podcasts, we can do just audio, and it means that we can focus solely on Lily. The arc of the film is about this sort of transition from her investigating a story outside of herself to her realizing that she is a big part of the story. And so we wanted this feeling, and we made some careful choices we broke the film into chapters and had the visual style evolve through these main turning points in the film. At the start of the film, we don't see Lily's face. We're very much focused on her mouth and behind her head. Then you see her face, then the camera starts to move, then it starts to go handheld as she sort of unravels. So the idea was about having the audience understand that they need to be thinking about who is telling the story, who is in control of the narrative. And so she appears to be an objective observer at first. She's a journalist. She's investigating a story. But as the film goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that her own subjectivity, her own point of view, is influencing the story that she's telling. Just like us as filmmakers, we are influencing the experience that you're having. So that was the kind of rationale behind having a podcast.
Before what you said, that she realized she's the part of the story. Is this spoiler alert?
Oh no, I think it's okay. We won't say in what way, but I think that's important. I think that's okay to talk about that. That's what the film ends up being, because that's the journey you're going to go on as an audience. That's the ride you're going to go on. So I think it's okay. We won't say in what way. We won't say what happens. We'll keep that to ourselves. Yeah.
After seeing Monolith, I think the film has the potential to expand as an anthology series.
Ah, you're not the first person to say that. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about a different version of the Monolith universe?
No, we haven't. We did get asked what would you do if you did a sequel, but you're right, because we have this idea of them appearing around the world, and we hear snippets of lots of different people's stories, their experiences with this strange artifact. So we could do it. I think I'm more interested in telling a different story. I think so much of what we were interested with Monolith was not the specifics of an alien brick and how it transforms people or changes, gives them visions or makes them ill, all these things that we kind of deal with in the film. We were more interested in Lily, the character's story, and sort of the interaction between this kind of alien X-Files-y narrative and a personal story about credibility, about ambition, about responsibility. So that's the important part of the story to me, and so I think you'd probably lose that if you went somewhere else. Someone did say to us though we should make a narrative podcast about Monolith, which would be a fun kind of like meta kind of way to do it. Could be scary.
It's kind of like opposite. Like there's a lot of true crime podcasts like made into like TV series or movies.
Yeah. But we could go the other way. But I think we'd probably prefer to make another film, I think.
In terms of the themes of the movie, there are some elements such as resentment, revenge, like supernatural horror. It feels like J-horror movies such as like The Ring or The Grudge. So what are your thoughts on this opinion? It reminds me of like 90s like Japanese horror movies.
We didn't talk about Japanese horror actually specifically, although I think The Ring especially is an obvious reference. The Ring is also about a supernatural force being translated through media as well. So there's this obvious similarity there. I mean, I do love those films, particularly the original Japanese version of The Grudge is a terrifying film. And you're right that they often work in very restricted spaces as well. And I think that's, a unique thing about living in Japan as well. They're very crowded, dense spaces, and there's small apartments and things like that. So I certainly think it probably has an influence on me generally. Someone who I am very influenced by is a Japanese manga author, Junji Ito, who writes Japanese cosmic horror. He's very influenced by Lovecraft, which I'm interested in that as well. So there's definitely that feeling that I love to bring into my work, and Junji Ito's Uzumaki is a favorite story of mine, and I think there are certainly elements of the uncanny in his work. He's really interested in horror that cannot be fully explained, that I was certainly very keen to bring into this film. That at the end of the day, I think what's more terrifying is something unknowable, and there's something about that in the Monolith that we give you hints at what may be going on, but we never fully answer them, because I think that's scarier, and I think that's something that Japanese horror does very well.
Following the previous question, what are your thoughts on the horror genre movies? And can you tell us your favorite horror movies and also horror movie directors?
Yeah, well, I mean, horror in the last sort of 10 years or so, thanks to, companies like A24, and they've kind of like elevated that genre into a new space, which I find really interesting. It's interesting, when we made Monolith, we wanted to make a science fiction film. I'm a big science fiction guy. I have a Dune tattoo, Fear is the Mind Killer. It's from Dune. That's from our film, actually, that one. But yeah, I really like science fiction. I was a big X-Files kid, so I grew up watching the X-Files, and that was certainly a big influence for me and Lucy, the writer, I think, on the Monolith script. So we were interested in that, but it sort of emerged and kind of became a horror movie. Especially as the film goes on, it gets more and more horror. And we shot relatively chronologically, so there was a point in the third week where we sort of felt like, oh, we're making a horror movie now. We didn't realize we were doing that. But I do love horror, and certainly some of the projects we're developing now are horror films. The Witch by Rob Eggers is one of my favorite films, and probably my favorite film of the last 10 years. I think it's about 10 years old now. I really love that film, particularly structurally. Which is a thing that certainly has influenced my work. It does this thing of being a very slow burn for a long time, and then it has these amazing turning points that really ratchet up the tension and feel like the film can suddenly kick into gear, and that feeling of like pace, the way he paces his films, I find really, really interesting. So that was a big influence on me. Alien is probably my favorite film ever made, the original Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, and that's obviously a science fiction horror film. And so I find, again, that uncanny Lovecraftian, unknowable horror really inspiring. What other horror movies have I liked of late? I mean, obviously Ari Aster is great. There's a great South Australian horror movie that's about to come out called Talk to Me that's really, really good. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm excited to be here and seeing more of them at this festival. But certainly I think horror films that have something to say, as well as the aesthetic, they also have some kind of metaphor or interesting theme that they want to explore, and The Witch is a great example of this. Are the films that interest me the most. They're the horror films that I kind of am most interested in. It Follows is another film that I really, really love. That's probably another one of my favorite horror films of the last 10 years. Again, it's that tone of like not quite being able to understand it, but feeling the tension. And again, It Follows has a great thing to say about sexuality and being a teenager and coming of age in a way that's really interesting. So I think those films that have something to say are the films I'm interested in.
It Follows is my favorite too.
Is your favorite? Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And again, I love the way I think there's an aesthetic to those films as well. The film that I thought about the most actually making our film was not a horror film. It was a Michael Haneke film called Caché, which I think what Haneke does, and he's not a horror filmmaker, but he presents the horror of humanity a lot. And he always does it in a way that's very kind of observational. He presents things very plainly. You know, if he presents violence or terrifying things, he sort of really boldly just sort of shows it to you and like doesn't cut away or do crazy angle, or he's like really like just lets it exist in the frame. And that's something we were super interested in. I think It Follows does that as well, does this thing of like, you just see a terrifying figure in the background of a shot. And so I really am interested in that thing of not, of letting the audience bring their own terror to it and like trying to present it in a way that is abject, that is more terrifying for how realistic or how plain it feels. And we do that a number of times in Monolith as well.
Funny Games is my favorite. You know,
I haven't actually seen Funny Games, yeah. But it's been on my list for a long time. Should I watch the original or the American version? Original. Right?
Well, original's better.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to watch that. Yeah.
I checked your IMDb credits and found that there's a very interesting project called Untitled Horror Thriller Project.
I didn't know that was on there. You emailed me about this and I checked it and I was like, oh, what is this? I didn't know which one it was. But yes, there is a few things.
So we were wondering, could you tell me a little bit about it? You can explain right now?
It's a bit too early. I can tell you about the few things so as a filmmaker, you kind of have to have a lot of irons in the fire. You never quite know which one will find its audience or find its opportunity to be made. So we have a few things in development. That one that's on IMDb, I'm developing with a friend of mine. Blanca Lista is a kind of science fiction film that's in the kind of Alex Garland world, things like Ex Machina or Annihilation. We're kind of that sort of world, a bit more science fiction. The Monolith team is developing a new film as well. The way we work together, Bettina and Lucy and I, was very collaborative. We sort of, from scratch, kind of came up with a half-page idea which became Monolith that we developed together. And we loved that process of working together. It's really our film, you know, the three of us, and so we wanted to replicate that. So we have just started developing a new film as well, which again, I can't tell you too much about, but is not because I'm protective, but because it's just very early. We're still figuring it out, but it's going to be, again, a kind of cosmic horror science fiction film with a bigger scope than Monolith. More than one character for starters, but similar kind of tone, we're interested in those kinds of films, and again, like a big Junji Ito influence on that film. And then I've got my own project, a horror film that I'm writing by myself, which is a kind of, very much a horror film about a kind of Lovecraftian cult radicalizing young men on the internet. So that one is called More, which I'm very excited about, and I've been writing over the last year or two. So yeah, there's a few things going on, and you never know which one will be able to find the light of day, and so that's why you kind of have to develop more than one. But yeah, we're hoping, especially that film with that Monolith team, like we just want to do it again and bring as much of our crew back and go around again. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
your comeback with your new project in Busan?
I think Busan Festival has been a real eye-opener to me. It's such a great festival, and seeing the program and the kinds of films and the way it focuses on Asian and Eastern Asian cinema is really exciting to me, and the audience was so fantastic, so definitely I want to come back, yes.
We prepare something.
Oh,
It's a special gift.
oh, thank you.
It's a Korean monolith.
How good, should I open it?
You can try right now.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so cool. I've got to open it, hang on. I don't wanna-
snack.
It's a snack, okay.
Like sweet bean jelly. Like
Oh yeah. Oh, and it's like. Yes, when you see the film, you will understand how close this is. We could have almost put that as a prop in the film. If we shot that close enough, you wouldn't even know. I've got to take a picture of that, so I'm not going to eat it yet. I'll take a photo. That is amazing. Thank you so much.
we have more here.
Oh my gosh! All right. Well, then I'll eat. All right. I can eat this one right now. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is a bean pesto. Delicious. Thank you so much. This is so cool. I'll take some back to the rest of the crew as well.
Also, you can find that food both in the movie. Still,
Snowpiercer.
Oh, this is what they eat in Snowpiercer.
In the movie, the ingredient is different, but it's close in the movie. It's not bean, but
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
what do you say to the audience who already watch it, and also who's gonna watch it like in the future? So, and also say anything to Movie Press subscribers and Korean fans.
Well, I want to say a big thank you to Busan for having us at this wonderful festival. We're excited to be here, and to everyone who came along to our screenings, thank you for coming. And to the rest of your subscribers and fans in Korea, the film will come out at some point. I don't have public release information yet, but it will be available at some point. And when it is, I really hope you get a chance to watch it and hope that you enjoy it. You know good cinema here in Korea, so I'm sure if you like it, then I will feel very proud. So thank you. I want to tell you a story. See you next movie. Bye. Thank you. That's fun. Thank you for this kind gift. That's so nice of you. They're the exact right dimensions too, right? It's like exactly the.